Not every car is a classic. Some are just downright disasters. These aren't the legends of the road. They're the flops, the fails, and the downright bizarre creations that left drivers scratching their heads. Today, we're diving into the 10 worst American cars of all time. From design disasters to mechanical nightmares, these cars earn their spot in the Automotive Hall of Shame. Think you've seen it all? Think again. Some of these monstrosities you've probably never even heard of. Let's take a wild ride. The 1958 Ford Edsel is one of the most infamous stories in automotive history, often used as a cautionary tale of how even the most ambitious projects can go spectacularly wrong. Launched with enormous fanfare and positioned as the car of the future, the Edsel turned out to be one of the biggest commercial failures ever, leaving a lasting legacy, not as an innovator, but as a synonym for miscalculation and failure. Ford had high hopes for the Edsel, naming it after Henry Ford's son, Edsel Ford. It was marketed as a cutting-edge car that would fill a gap in the company's lineup, slotting between the more affordable Ford models and the higher-end Mercurys. Ford spent millions on market research, engineering, and one of the largest advertising campaigns of the era. They promised something revolutionary, a car that would redefine the driving experience. However, the hype surrounding the Edsel only added to its eventual downfall, as the reality of the car didn't live up to the lofty expectations. One of the most criticized aspects of the Edsel was its styling, which was polarizing at best and downright bizarre at worst. The centerpiece of the controversy was its vertical, horse-collar-shaped grille, which many derisively compared to a toilet seat. While Ford intended the grille to be distinctive and futuristic, it became the butt of countless jokes and turned off potential buyers. The rest of the design was a mix of bulky proportions, excessive chrome, and oddly placed details that made the car look awkward and out of step with the clean lines emerging in late 1950s car design. The Ford Edsel wasn't just plagued by aesthetic issues, it also suffered from a range of mechanical problems and quality control issues. Production was rushed, and many cars arrived at dealerships with misaligned parts, leaking fluids or faulty electronics. The car's much-touted teletouch transmission, which located the gear-shifting buttons in the center of the steering wheel, was innovative but prone to failure and confused drivers unfamiliar with the system. Additionally, the Edsel shared many mechanical components with other Ford vehicles, which made it feel less special despite its higher price tag. Timing was another major factor in the Edsel's downfall. When the car debuted in 1957 for the 1958 model year, the United States was sliding into a recession, and consumers were shying away from expensive cars with extravagant styling. The mid-price market that the Edsel was designed to dominate was shrinking, and competitors like Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and Dodge were already well established in that space, leaving little room for a new player. Ford also made the mistake of overestimating demand, building Edsel-specific dealerships and producing far more cars than the market could absorb. As sales faltered, the company was left with unsold inventory and mounting losses. In its debut year, Edsel sold fewer than half of the projected 200,000 units. The lineup was trimmed in subsequent years, but by 1960, the Edsel experiment was over, and Ford officially discontinued the brand. The failure of the Porsche Edsel cost Ford an estimated $250 million, a staggering sum at the time, equivalent to billions today. More than just a financial loss, the Edsel became a cultural punchline and a symbol of hubris and overpromise. The name Edsel entered the lexicon as shorthand for a colossal failure, a cautionary example of what happens when marketing hype outpaces a product's ability to deliver. Despite its disastrous launch, the Edsel has gained a cult following in the decades since. Today, enthusiasts appreciate its quirks and historical significance, and surviving examples have become collectible relics of one of the most infamous chapters in automotive history. Far from being forgotten, the Edsel continues to serve as a valuable lesson in design, marketing, and the importance of understanding one's audience. While it may never be remembered as the car of the future, it will forever be a symbol of what can happen when ambition outruns execution. The 1971 Chevrolet Vega is a stark reminder of how rushed execution and cost-cutting can derail even the most innovative concepts. General Motors launched the Vega with high expectations, positioning it as a groundbreaking compact car that would challenge imports like the Volkswagen Beetle and Toyota Corolla. However, the Vega quickly became infamous for its litany of problems, leaving a lasting stain on Chevrolet's reputation and the compact car market for American manufacturers. When the Vega was introduced, it was celebrated as a bold step forward. It featured a lightweight aluminum engine block, advanced unibody construction, and clean, modern styling that was a departure from the bloated designs of the late 1960s. The car was offered in various configurations, including a coupe, sedan, and wagon, to appeal to a broad audience. Chevrolet marketed it as an affordable, fuel-efficient, and stylish alternative to the small imports that were rapidly gaining ground in the U.S. market. However, GM's decision to prioritize speed and cost efficiency in the Vega's development proved disastrous. The car was rushed to production in just 2 years, a timeline that left little room for rigorous testing or refinement. One of the Vega's most touted innovations, its aluminum engine block, became a major source of its problems. Chevrolet had opted for a sleeveless design to save costs, but this decision led to severe durability issues. The engine blocks were prone to warping and overheating, especially when combined with the poorly designed cooling system. Many owners reported engine failures within the first 30,000 miles, a catastrophic flaw for a car meant to be affordable and dependable. Rust was another Achilles heel of the Vega. GM used new techniques to reduce manufacturing costs, including pre-assembled body panels that were prone to trapping moisture. The result was that Vega models often began rusting within a year of purchase, with some owners reporting corrosion even before taking delivery. The car's unibody construction, while innovative, also lacked adequate rust-proofing, which compounded the problem. For buyers who expected long-lasting durability, the Vega's rapid deterioration was a deal-breaker. Build quality was yet another area where the Vega fell short. GM had implemented an automated assembly line at its Lordstown, Ohio plant, hoping to produce the cars faster and cheaper than ever before. While this sounded good in theory, it led to a high rate of manufacturing defects. Poor quality control meant that many Vegas left the factory with misaligned panels, rattling interiors, and other fit and finish issues that left buyers disappointed. Despite these flaws, the Vega wasn't entirely without merit. Its lightweight design and compact dimensions were forward-thinking, and the car handled reasonably well for its time. It also featured attractive styling that was ahead of many of its competitors. However, these attributes couldn't outweigh its reliability woes, and the car's reputation quickly nosedived. Sales initially started strong, with nearly 277,000 units sold in its first year. But as word spread about the Vega's issues, demand plummeted. By the mid-1970s, Chevrolet had tried to address some of the car's problems through redesigns and recalls, but the damage was already done. The Vega became synonymous with poor reliability and corporate mismanagement at home, tarnishing Chevrolet's image during an era when Japanese automakers were establishing themselves as leaders in quality and efficiency. The legacy of the Chevrolet Vega is a complex one. On the one hand, it demonstrated the potential for American manufacturers to innovate in the compact car segment. On the other hand, it became a cautionary tale of what happens when cost-cutting and rushed timelines take precedence over quality and customer satisfaction. Today, the Vega is often remembered as one of GM's biggest missteps, a car that could have been a game-changer but instead became a symbol of missed opportunities. For automotive historians and enthusiasts, the Vega remains a fascinating study in ambition versus execution. While it failed to live up to its promise, the lessons learned from its shortcomings have influenced GM's approach to engineering and quality control in subsequent decades. Despite its rocky history, the Chevrolet Vega stands as an enduring reminder of the challenges and risks of automotive innovation. The 1974 Mustang II represents one of the most dramatic pivots in automotive history, a bold but polarizing attempt to adapt Ford's iconic pony car to a rapidly changing world. Born in the shadow of the 1973 oil crisis, The Mustang II emerged as a downsized and fuel-efficient alternative to the muscular first-generation Mustangs. While its practical design appealed to some buyers at the time, it alienated a large portion of the Mustang's fan base, tarnishing its legacy for years. When Ford introduced the original white Mustang in 1964, it quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Stylish, affordable, and performance-oriented, it created the pony car segment and set sales records. However, by the early 1970s, the Mustang had grown larger, heavier, and less nimble, reflecting the trends of the muscle car era. Rising gas prices, stricter emissions regulations, and shifting consumer preferences signaled that the era of big, powerful cars was coming to an end. Ford needed to reimagine the Mustang for a new reality. The result was the 1974 Mustang II, a complete departure from its predecessors. Designed under the leadership of Ford executive Lee Iacocca, the Mustang II was significantly smaller and lighter, sharing its platform with the Ford Pinto, a compact economy car. This move was a direct response to the oil crisis, as Ford aimed to offer a car that prioritized fuel efficiency over raw power. While this strategy made sense given the economic climate, it came at the cost of the Mustang's traditional performance identity. The Mustang II's styling reflected its shift in priorities. Its design was clean and modern, but it lacked the aggressive lines and proportions that had made the first-generation Mustangs so iconic. The car's dimensions were much smaller, making it look more like a sporty compact than a pony car. Buyers could choose from coupe, hatchback, and luxury Ghia trims, but the absence of a convertible option further distanced the Mustang II from its roots. Under the hood, the Mustang II offered a range of uninspiring engine options, starting with a 2.3L inline-4, producing just 88 horsepower. A 2.8L V6 was available for slightly more power, while a 5.0L V8 was eventually added, but even this engine was heavily restricted by emissions controls, delivering only 140 horsepower. These figures paled in comparison to the high-performance engines of earlier Mustangs, leaving enthusiasts disappointed. The Mustang II's Pinto-based platform was another sore spot for critics. While it provided decent fuel efficiency and affordability, it also brought with it a reputation for being underwhelming in terms of performance and handling. The car's lightweight construction and modest power output made it practical for daily driving, but uninspiring on the open road. For fans of the muscle car era, the Mustang II felt like a betrayal of the brand's heritage. Despite its flaws, the Mustang II was a commercial success. Ford sold over 385,000 units in its first year, demonstrating that there was a market for a smaller, more economical Mustang. The car's compact size and fuel efficiency appealed to buyers dealing with high gas prices and economic uncertainty. It also won the DeLorean Motor Trend Car of the Year award in 1974, signaling industry recognition for Ford's efforts to adapt to changing times. However, the long-term legacy of the Mustang II is far less favorable. Among enthusiasts and collectors, it is often regarded as the low point of the Mustang lineage. A car that abandoned its muscle car roots in favor of practicality and cost-cutting. The Pinto connection, combined with the lackluster engines and uninspiring performance, cemented its reputation as a disappointment. In retrospect, the 1974 Mustang II serves as a reflection of the challenges automakers faced during the 1970s. While it successfully addressed the economic realities of its time, it sacrificed much of what had made the Mustang special. The introduction of the Fox-body Mustang in 1979 helped restore the car's performance-oriented identity, but the Mustang II remains a controversial chapter in the history of Ford's beloved pony car. For better or worse, it stands as a reminder of how external pressures can shape and sometimes compromise a brand's legacy. The 1981 Cadillac Cimarron stands as a stark reminder of the pitfalls of royal badge engineering and the dangers of diluting a luxury brand's image. Conceived as Cadillac's answer to the growing popularity of small, premium European sedans like the BMW 3 Series, the Cimarron instead became a symbol of missed opportunity and a lesson in brand mismanagement. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, the American auto industry was facing intense competition from European imports, particularly in the luxury compact segment. Cadillac, long synonymous with opulence and prestige, had little to offer against the smaller, sportier, and more efficient offerings from BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi. In response, General Motors hastily developed the Cimarron as a way for Cadillac to enter this competitive market. Unfortunately, the project was rushed and poorly executed. Rather than designing a brand new vehicle befitting Cadillac's luxury reputation, GM decided to rebadge the Chevrolet Cavalier, a compact economy car from its J-body platform, and market it as a Cadillac. The Cimarron shared nearly all of its mechanical components, proportions, and styling with the Cavalier, differing only in minor trim details, a Cadillac badge, and a more upscale interior. The car was initially equipped with a 1.8L inline-4 engine, producing just 88 horsepower, a power plant that was woefully underwhelming for a supposed luxury car. A 2.0L inline-4 and a 2.8L V6 were offered later, but neither delivered the performance expected of the brand. The Cimarron's off-styling was another weak point. While the interior featured leather seats and some upgraded materials, it lacked the grandeur and distinctiveness associated with Cadillac. To many buyers, the Cimarron looked like exactly what it was, a dressed-up Cavalier. Its dimensions were compact and unassuming, a far cry from the stately presence of Cadillac's flagship models like the Eldorado or Fleetwood. Worse, the Cimarron's handling and ride quality were no match for the sophisticated engineering of its European rivals, further diminishing its credibility. At launch, the price tag was another source of criticism. The Cimarron started at approximately $12,000, nearly double the price of the Cavalier and close to that of established luxury imports. Buyers expecting a Cadillac experience were left disappointed by the car's mediocrity, while traditional Cadillac customers balked at the idea of a compact economy car bearing the Cadillac name. Sales suffered as a result, and the Cimarron quickly earned a reputation as an overpriced and underwhelming product. The Cimarron remained in production until 1988, but it never managed to shed its tarnished image. Over its lifespan, Cadillac made improvements to the car, including better engines and equipment, but the damage to its reputation was already done. Critics and customers alike saw it as an emblem of GM's over-reliance on badge engineering, a practice in which multiple brands share the same basic vehicle with only minor differences, undermining brand identity and consumer trust. The legacy of the Cadillac Cimarron is one of failure and regret. It became a cautionary tale within the industry, illustrating the importance of authenticity and thoughtful product development in maintaining a luxury brand's prestige. The Cimarron not only failed to compete with European imports, but also damaged Cadillac's image, requiring years of effort to rebuild the brand's reputation. In hindsight, the Cimarron's failure can be attributed to GM's short-sighted strategy and lack of investment in creating a truly competitive compact luxury car. While Cadillac eventually regained its footing with innovative and high-performance models like the CTS and Escalade, the Cimarron remains a symbol of what happens when a brand sacrifices its identity for expediency. Today, the Cimarron is often cited as one of the most infamous examples of badge engineering gone wrong, a stark reminder of the perils of cutting corners in the luxury market. The 1975 AMC Pacer is one of the most peculiar and polarizing cars ever produced. With its fishbowl designing and quirky styling, it promised to redefine the compact car market, but instead became a cautionary tale of mismatched innovation and execution. While it achieved a level of cult status in later years, the Pacer struggled to win over consumers during its time, thanks to its inherent flaws in weight, performance, and practicality. In the early 1970s, American Motors Corporation, AMC, known for its innovative but budget-conscious vehicles, set out to create a car that would stand out from the competition. The Pacer was envisioned as the wagon car of the future, a bold and forward-thinking design meant to appeal to a changing automotive market. With increasing concerns over fuel efficiency, emissions, and urban maneuverability, AMC aimed to create a compact car that was efficient, easy to drive, and uniquely styled. The design of the Pacer was its most striking feature, and also its most controversial. Its wide, low stance and expansive glass area gave it a futuristic, bubble-like appearance, leading to its nickname as the fishbowl on wheels. The designers sought to maximize interior space, creating a cabin that felt airy and open despite the car's small footprint. The Pacer was also one of the first American cars designed with the possibility of a rotary engine in mind. Unfortunately, when AMC's partnership with the General Motors to supply rotary engines fell through, the company was forced to equip the Pacer with its existing inline-six engine, which was bulky, heavy, and not particularly efficient. This engine choice severely impacted the Pacer's running performance. Despite being marketed as a compact car, the Pacer was unusually heavy for its size, tipping the scales at around 3,000 pounds, a weight comparable to larger sedans of the time. This heft was due to its extensive use of glass and robust safety features, which included reinforced doors and a wide stance for stability. However, the underpowered inline-six engine struggled to move the car with any sense of urgency. Fuel efficiency, a key selling point for compact cars, was disappointing as well, averaging around 16 miles per gallon, which was closer to full-size sedan territory than the efficient imports it aimed to compete with. The Pacer's practicality also came into question. While the large glass windows provided excellent visibility, they caused the interior to heat up quickly in the sun and made climate control challenging. Additionally, the car's quirky, asymmetrical design, where one door was longer than the other to improve rear passenger access, added to its oddity but did little to improve its appeal to mainstream buyers. AMC initially marketed the Pacer as the first wide small car, emphasizing its roomy interior and unique styling. However, this approach failed to resonate with consumers, many of whom were put off by its unconventional looks and lackluster performance. As the energy crisis of the 1970s deepened, buyers increasingly turned to more efficient and reliable imports like the Toyota Corolla and Volkswagen Beetle, leaving the Pacer struggling to find its place in the market. By the end of its production run in 1980, the Pacer had become a symbol of misguided ambition. AMC, already a small player in the automotive industry, had poured significant resources into the car's development, and its failure contributed to the company's financial struggles in the following years. Despite its troubled history, the Pacer has since gained a degree of cult status, celebrated for its sheer oddity and as a nostalgic relic of 1970s automotive experimentation. It has been immortalized in popular culture, most notably in the film Wayne's World, where a bright blue Pacer, complete with flames, played a starring role, further cementing its reputation as a quirky icon. The legacy of the AMC Pacer is a mix of fascination and ridicule. While it failed to deliver on its promise as a practical and forward-thinking compact car, its daring design and unique approach have made it a memorable footnote in automotive history. Today, the Pacer is often mocked as one of the worst-designed cars ever, but it's also cherished by enthusiasts who appreciate its charm and its role as a symbol of an era when car manufacturers weren't afraid to take risks, however misguided they may have been. The Washington's 1987 Yugo GV, short for Great Value, is an enduring symbol of how not to enter the fiercely competitive American car market. Imported from Yugoslavia by entrepreneur Malcolm Bricklin, the Yugo was marketed as the cheapest car in America, with a sticker price of just $390. For budget-conscious buyers in the economically challenging 1980s, the price seemed like a dream come true. Unfortunately, the Yugo quickly became a nightmare for its owners, plagued by poor build quality, frequent breakdowns, and abysmal safety ratings, cementing its reputation as one of the worst cars ever sold in the United States. The Yugo GV was based on an outdated Fiat 127 platform, licensed to Zastava, a Yugoslavian manufacturer known for producing military equipment and utilitarian vehicles. The Fiat 127 was a relatively successful car in Europe during the 1970s, but by the time Zastava reworked it into the Yugo, the platform was already antiquated. The Yugo retained the small, boxy styling and basic engineering of its predecessor, but it lacked the refinement and reliability expected in the American market. Build quality was one of the Yugo's most significant shortcomings. The cars were assembled in Zastava's factory in Yugoslavia under conditions that could charitably be described as less than ideal. Parts were poorly fitted, the materials used were subpar, and quality control was inconsistent at best. Many cars arrived in the US with defects straight off the boat, from faulty electrical systems to misaligned doors and windows. Owners frequently reported breakdowns within the first few months of ownership, often requiring repairs that cost more than the car's initial purchase price. The 1.1-liter four-cylinder engine produced a modest 55 horsepower, allowing the car to crawl from 0 to 60 miles an hour in a glacial 14 seconds. While the Yugo was fuel efficient, it was woefully underpowered, even for a small car. Coupled with its rudimentary suspension and thin, low-quality tires, the Yugo delivered a driving experience that was, at best, uninspired and, at worst, dangerous. Safety was another glaring issue. The Yugo scored abysmally in crash tests, with its flimsy construction providing little protection for occupants. Despite these flaws, the Yugo initially sold reasonably well. Its rock-bottom price appealed to students, first-time car buyers, and those looking for an affordable second vehicle. However, word quickly spread about its unreliability, and public opinion turned sharply against the car. As jokes about the Yugo's quality began to circulate, such as, "Why does a Yugo have a rear window defroster? To keep your hands warm while you push it," the car became a laughingstock. Even comedians like Jay Leno regularly took jabs at the Yugo during late-night monologues. By the late 1980s, the writing was on the wall. Sales plummeted as buyers abandoned the Yugo for more reliable alternatives, such as the Honda Civic or Toyota Corolla. Compounding matters, the political and economic instability in Yugoslavia disrupted Zastava's production capabilities. In 1991, the importation of Yugos into the US ceased, marking the end of a short-lived but infamous chapter in American automotive history. The legacy of the Yugo is a complex mix of infamy and nostalgia. On the one hand, it's widely regarded as one of the worst cars ever sold, a textbook example of how not to enter a new market. On the other hand, the Yugo's sheer audacity, its attempt to sell a car that was both cheap and cheerful, has earned it a small but passionate following among car enthusiasts. Today, well-preserved Yugos are considered quirky collector's items, cherished more for their cultural significance than their actual driving experience. Ultimately, the Yugo GV lives on in car culture as a punchline, a cautionary tale, and a symbol of the perils of prioritizing price over quality. While its time on the market was brief, its impact was lasting, leaving a legacy of jokes, anecdotes, and the occasional fond memory of the cheapest car in America. The 1978 Chrysler LeBaron Town & Country Woody Wagon. Pontiac was a car that tried to evoke nostalgia for classic Americana while simultaneously embodying the automotive malaise of the late 1970s. By combining faux wood paneling with an otherwise uninspired design and underwhelming performance, the car ended up being more kitsch than classic, leaving it stranded as a relic of its time rather than a timeless icon. The LeBaron nameplate had initially debuted as Chrysler's mid-size luxury offering, slotting just below its flagship New Yorker. The Town & Country wagon was the LeBaron's attempt to capitalize on the station wagon market, which was beginning to lose ground to more practical alternatives like minivans and SUVs. To stand out, Chrysler leaned heavily on nostalgia, slapping a simulated wood paneling on the exterior, a nod to the real wood-sided station wagons of the 1940s and 50s. However, by the late 1970s, this aesthetic felt increasingly out of place, more a relic than a revival. Under the hood, the LeBaron Town & Country failed to inspire confidence. The standard engine was a modest 3.7L/6, producing only 100 horsepower. which was barely adequate for a car of its size. Buyers seeking more power could opt for V8 engines, including a Tomar 5.9L V8, but these added weight without significantly improving the car's sluggish performance. Coupled with 3-speed automatic transmissions that sapped any remaining vigor, the LeBaron offered a driving experience best described as uninspired. To make matters worse, Chrysler's engines were notorious for poor fuel economy, a critical flaw during an era defined by skyrocketing gas prices and increasing consumer interest in efficiency. The build quality was another Achilles heel for the 1978 LeBaron. Like many cars of its time, it suffered from cost-cutting measures that resulted in flimsy materials and inconsistent assembly. The faux wood vinyl appliques often peeled or faded quickly, exposing the car's cheap construction. Inside, the cabin was a mix of fake luxury and dated styling, with gaudy materials that seemed more appropriate for a disco lounge than a high-end automobile. While the wagon did offer a spacious interior and ample cargo room, two of its few redeeming qualities, it failed to mask the overall lack of refinement. On the road, the LeBaron Woody wagon was plagued by mediocre handling and unreliable mechanics, making it a frustrating ownership experience. Frequent mechanical issues, particularly with the engine and transmission, only added to its reputation as a car that looked old before its time and performed like it. The heavy emphasis on style over substance backfired, as the car's outdated aesthetics quickly alienated buyers who were beginning to turn toward the sleeker, more modern designs of imports like Volvo and Mercedes-Benz. The legacy of the 1978 Chrysler LeBaron Town & Country Woody wagon is one of missed opportunities and misplaced priorities. It aimed to offer a touch of nostalgia and luxury during a tumultuous time in the automotive industry, but it ultimately fell victim to the era's malaise. A period characterized by uninspired designs, poor performance, and lackluster engineering. By the early 1980s, Chrysler was forced to undergo a dramatic reinvention under the leadership of Lee Iacocca, pivoting towards smaller, more efficient vehicles like the K-cars and the wildly successful minivans that would eventually replace station wagons like the LeBaron. Today, the LeBaron Woody wagon is remembered less for its merits and more for its role as a cultural artifact of the late 1970s. It serves as a reminder of the struggles faced by American automakers during a time of changing consumer preferences, rising fuel prices, and growing competition from foreign manufacturers. For car enthusiasts, it's a curiosity, a symbol of a bygone era when faux wood and chrome trim were seen as the height of suburban sophistication, even as they heralded the decline of Detroit's dominance. The 1980 Pontiac Phoenix is a classic example of a car that tried to meet the demands of the times, but ultimately became a symbol of General Motors' struggles in the early 1980s. As part of GM's X-body platform, the Phoenix was intended to be a compact, fuel-efficient sedan that could appeal to consumers looking for an alternative to the larger, gas-guzzling cars of the 1970s. Unfortunately, the Phoenix was riddled with issues that not only hindered its success, but also left it with a lasting legacy of poor build quality and underperformance. At its core, the Pontiac Phoenix was a product of the Wesh X-body platform, which also underpinned other GM models like the Chevrolet Citation and Oldsmobile Omega. While the compact size of the Phoenix was intended to appeal to an era of rising fuel prices and changing consumer preferences, the platform itself was plagued by design flaws. These included unreliable engines, poor handling characteristics, and inferior materials, which led to a frustrating ownership experience for many. The engine lineup for the Phoenix was lackluster, offering small, underpowered options like a 2.5L four-cylinder engine and a polished 3.8L V6, neither of which delivered much in terms of performance or reliability. The four-cylinder engine in particular was underwhelming, offering minimal power while also being prone to engine failures and frequent mechanical issues. The V6 engine provided more power but still struggled with poor fuel efficiency. particularly when compared to competing imports that were both more reliable and more economical. The Phoenix's engines were also prone to cooling system issues and head gasket failures, making it a headache for owners who were often forced to deal with expensive repairs early in the car's lifespan. In terms of handling, the Phoenix suffered from the same problems that plagued many vehicles built on the X-body platform. The suspension was overly soft, leading to poor road manners, especially during cornering or emergency maneuvers. The power and braking system was another sore point, with frequent reports of brake fade and premature wear, issues that contributed to the car's reputation for unreliability. These defects became particularly problematic when combined with the build quality issues that were widespread across GM's compact vehicles at the time. The common poor assembly and use of cheap materials resulted in rattles, squeaks, and fit and finish problems, giving the Phoenix a low-quality feel that failed to impress customers. The interior design was also nothing to write home about, with a plain, uninspired layout that used cheap plastics and lacked any of the refinement or attention to detail that might have made the Phoenix stand out in its class. The bar's seating was uncomfortable, and the dashboard featured a simple, dated design that felt more like an afterthought than a purposeful feature. While the compact size of the Phoenix did offer some advantages in urban driving, the lack of a comfortable ride and its cramped, uncomfortable cabin made it less appealing for long-distance travel or daily commutes. The legacy of the 1980 Pontiac Phoenix is one of missed potential and lackluster execution. While the compact sedan market was growing, GM's decision to rely on the flawed X-body platform and their failure to address key issues with the car's engineering and build quality led to its downfall. The Phoenix was part of a larger trend of GM's struggle in the 1980s, as the company tried to adapt to a changing market while contending with financial challenges, labor issues, and increasingly stiff competition from Japanese automakers. The Phoenix, like many of its X-body siblings, became a symbol of GM's difficult transition during this period and its failure to meet the needs of a new generation of consumers. In the end, the Pontiac Phoenix is often remembered for its reliability issues, uninspiring design, and poor performance, which contributed to its relatively short lifespan. It was discontinued in 1984, marking the end of an era for Pontiac's entry into the compact sedan market. Today, the Phoenix is a footnote in automotive history, a car that failed to live up to expectations and one that GM would soon want to forget. Its legacy serves as a reminder of the challenges American automakers faced in the 1980s as they struggled to modernize and compete with the growing influence of foreign manufacturers. The 1971 Ford Pinto is one of the most infamous cars in automotive history, not because of its performance or design features, but due to a tragic flaw that would make it synonymous with one of the biggest PR disasters in automotive history. The Pinto was Ford's attempt at a small, affordable compact car to compete with imports like the Volkswagen Beetle, but its legacy has been tarnished by design flaws and corporate decisions that led to deadly consequences. Ford introduced the Pinto in 1970 as a cheap, fuel-efficient vehicle designed to appeal to the growing demand for smaller cars during the oil crisis. On paper, the Pinto seemed like a perfect solution: compact, inexpensive, and fuel-efficient. It was marketed as an affordable car for the masses. However, beneath its unassuming exterior, the Pinto had a dangerous flaw in its fuel tank design. The issue stemmed from the placement of the fuel tank, which was positioned in a way that made it highly vulnerable to catch rear-end collisions. In the event of a crash, the fuel tank would often rupture, spilling gasoline and increasing the risk of fire. The Pinto's gas tank was mounted too close to the rear bumper, which, combined with the car's weak rear structure, meant that the tank could be punctured or crushed in a rear collision. This flaw led to numerous accidents, injuries, and fatalities, as the car was prone to catching fire in crashes as low as 25 mpm. Ford became aware of the problem in the early 1970s, but instead of recalling the Pinto, the company chose to downplay the issue, hoping it would not gain public attention. It was revealed that Ford had conducted a cost-benefit analysis to determine that the cost of fixing the fuel tank issue in every Pinto would be more expensive than the potential cost of lawsuits related to accidents caused by the flaw. Ford's decision to ignore the issue and not issue a recall became a public relations nightmare when the story broke in the media. In 1970, Mother Jones, a nonprofit magazine, published an expose detailing the internal documents from Ford that revealed the company's knowledge of the problem and its decision not to act. This revelation sparked widespread outrage. The Pinto became a symbol of corporate negligence, and Ford faced numerous lawsuits from victims and families of those affected by the deadly design flaw. Ford's handling of the Pinto scandal led to severe damage to its reputation and left a long-lasting stain on its image. Despite the fact that the Pinto had a relatively low starting price and did achieve some success in the compact car market, its dangerous flaw overshadowed any positive attributes it might have had. The Pinto's failure to live up to its promises, particularly in terms of safety, marked a low point in Ford's history. While other car manufacturers focused on improving safety features, Ford's decision to prioritize cost savings over customer safety made the Pinto an example of what can happen when a company places profits above ethical responsibility. The legacy of the 1971 Ford Pinto is forever linked to this scandal. Its story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of corporate greed, poor decision-making, and the disregard for consumer safety. While Ford eventually faced the consequences of its actions and the Pinto was discontinued in 1980, the damage to its reputation remained. Today, the Pinto is remembered as a tragic example of how one design flaw, coupled with a series of poor corporate decisions, can shape a car's legacy for decades. The Pinto scandal remains one of the most infamous moments in automotive history and serves as a reminder of the importance of consumer safety and corporate accountability. Though the Pinto was not necessarily a bad car in every respect, its place in history is forever tainted by its association with one of the most notorious and avoidable automotive disasters. The Way 1982 DeLorean DMC-12 is a car that has become more famous for its pop culture legacy than for its performance or engineering. Despite its undeniable, iconic design, the DeLorean was plagued by issues that led to its financial failure and short-lived production run. While it remains beloved by fans of Back to the Future, the DMC-12's troubled history reveals a story of underperformance, poor management, and legal complications. The DeLorean DMC-12 was the brainchild of John DeLorean, a former General Motors executive who aimed to build a car that would challenge the traditional sports car market. With its futuristic stainless steel body, gull-wing doors, and sleek aerodynamic design, the DeLorean certainly looked like something out of the future. The car's appearance on the Back to the Future trilogy cemented its place in pop culture history. However, the reality of the DeLorean was far less glamorous. From the start, the DeLorean faced engineering and quality control issues. The car was underpowered for its price, powered by a 2.85L V6 engine that produced only about 130 horsepower. For a car marketed as a sporty, high-performance vehicle, this simply wasn't enough. The DeLorean was sluggish with poor acceleration and a lack of the power expected from a car with its distinctive looks. Many owners complained about the car's slow acceleration and mediocre handling, especially when compared to rivals in the same price range, like the Porsche 924 and the Chevrolet Corvette. The wide build quality of the DeLorean was also subpar. Despite its futuristic exterior, the car was poorly constructed. Issues with fit and finish were rampant, and the key stainless steel panels that gave the DeLorean its unique look were prone to rusting and indenting. Additionally, the car's gull-wing doors, while stylish, had a tendency to malfunction, further damaging the car's reputation. The DeLorean's reliability was questionable at best, with many cars experiencing mechanical failures and electrical problems shortly after purchase. The cars were found overpriced, a starting price of around $25,000, equivalent to roughly a $70,000 today, did not help its case. Given the car's underwhelming performance and quality issues, it was difficult to justify the hefty price tag, especially when buyers could get a more reliable, better-performing car for a similar or lower price. The DeLorean's downfall was also tied to John DeLorean's financial troubles. His legal battles and criminal charges related to drug trafficking had a direct impact on the company's ability to stay afloat. As DeLorean's personal life spiraled out of control, so did the fate of the car company. The DeLorean Motor Company filed for bankruptcy in 1982, and production of the DMC-12 ceased after just over 9,000 units were built. However, the DeLorean's place in pop culture was solidified in 1985 when it was chosen to serve as the time machine in Back to the Future. The car's appearance in the trilogy, driven by Doc Brown and Marty McFly, gave it a level of fame that far outlasted its time as a production car. The DeLorean became a cult classic and an enduring symbol of 1980s nostalgia. The time machine aspect gave the car a second life, and today, DeLorean enthusiasts and collectors celebrate it for its quirky design and movie status, rather than for its technical or engineering accomplishments. While the 1982 DeLorean DMC-12 remains a beloved piece of automotive history, it was ultimately a disappointment as a car. Its underperformance, with the poor build quality and financial failure, made it a short-lived venture in the automotive world. The DeLorean's legacy is a complicated one, but it lives on in popular culture, where it is celebrated as much for its role in the Back to the Future franchise as for its place as a symbol of ambition and failure. The DeLorean DMC-12 may not have succeeded as a mass-market car, but its influence is undeniable, and its pop culture legacy continues to shine.